Today we're at the Utah Fieldhouse of Natural Science State Park. Let's head inside and see all the Morrison and Jurassic creatures they have on display. Here, whenever you first walk in, the first thing you see to the right is this beautiful open glass prep lab. So you can see inside. It looks like they're working on a lot of sauropod material right now with some Diplodocus right there that looks like maybe Camarasaurus in the back there. But this is a very beautiful prep lab. I love that I love that they always have their prep labs open so you can see in. But if you turn around, you see Diplodocus or Diplodocus. This is the first thing you see when you turn to the left. This is the namesake of one of the two major split-offs for the sauropod branch. You have the Macronaria and the Diplodocids or Diplodocoids. This is a beautiful Diplodocoid. They have these massive, massive legs. Their stances were oddly narrow compared to Macronaria, and their necks were rather straight. And there's an entire paper talking about the range of motion of their neck, where they might have just stood in one point and ate like a cow just around and slowly tried to just back away. And of course they could lift their neck up and down, but if we look at the neck here, you'll see the giant openings on the side. That would have been for air pockets to make the neck lighter, so it's not just solid bone. They had those very long, thin, pencil-like teeth for possibly more aquatic plants, ferns on the grounds, things like that, versus Macronaria where they had those sharp shovel-like teeth for shearing and pulling. They had this long, massive bull whip tail like thing, so similar to a Apatosaurus, because Apatosaurus is a Diplodocid. So they have this very long whip-like tail that would have caused so much damage if you got hit by it. These giant multi-ton beasts, and getting right under it is always amazing. I always love that you can get this close to these reconstructions here. I think it's a very beautiful reconstruction here. So here, they actually have a hidden Allosaurus right under their staircase. This is just a reconstruction, so it's kind of hard to tell some of the anatomy. So you have this very thick jaw. This is probably based on Fragilis, because Fragilis is one of the most famous Allosaurus species. This is just a nice little reconstruction they have hidden under the stairs. I think that's very silly, and I love that. So here we start in the pre-Cambrian era, 545 million to 4.5 billion years. We start out before life here. We get the oldest rocks, things like that, things that form the planet that we live on. So we have some quartzites here, quartz muscovite schist. It's a very conglomerate of, not conglomerate, but combined rock there. We have multiple layers of, we have shales and sandstones and things like that. But here, the dark spots you see on this rock may be fossils. Those are some of the earliest fossils that you'll find, 900 million year old Precambrian era possible fossils of like little specks of microorganisms, kind of things like that. Those first large single-celled organisms there. Then as the Precambrian goes, we start to see the rise of more organisms. Then we get to the Paleozoic era, 251 to 545 million years, and we start to see the rise of multicellular life forms and things like that. You see things like trilobites here. You see a lot of trilobites appear. Trilobites run rampant in the Paleozoic. They get so many different species and things like that. You get brachiopods that appear. Snails become a thing. Brachiopod, blastoids are a thing. Bryozoans become a thing. You get a lot of those modern clam things like that. Here we actually see some ancient corals. We can get close to that. You see some of these ancient corals. Those lines there would be ancient corals. So this would have been like a section of an ancient coral reef there. You get a lot of very, very primitive versions of life, bryozoans, those early sponges, corals, brachiopods, trilobites, like I mentioned. You see kind of a bark kind of thing appear, apparently. Carpoids become a thing. Carpoid are echinoderms, or distant relatives to today's sea stars and sea urchins. But, so you do see kind of those echinoderms appear. But if we turn around here, we get some of the weirder creatures that appear, like this here, the buzzsaw fish, or the Helicoprion. Geez, I can't speak today. 270 million years ago, you start to see the rise of sharks and things like that with really weird jaws. I genuinely would love to see if they, what the reasoning they have for those jaws are. My guess is it's something with hard prey, like brachiopods and things like that, so they get them in there and crunch them. But yeah, they had so many theories about where they were, from the tip of the tail to the nose, where this weird spiral of teeth were. These things were really weird, and if they were alive today, this would be just one of the weirdest things you could find in the ocean. But as we keep going down the Precambrian, we have this beautiful layer formation, a beautiful Moenkopi there, Chinle, Navajo sandstones there. We get to the Mesozoic era. This is, you get to the Triassic. We come from the Precambrian, Paleozoic, Permian. During the Permian, they kind of just glossed over the Permian, which is very sad. You start to see the rise of tetrapods. Dimetrodon appears, Gorgonopsids are there, a lot of, not Ankylosaurus, that's not the right thing, but crocodilians. You see like weird crocodilians. But then you get Coelophysis and Herrerasaurus in the Triassic. And then as the Triassic-Jurassic extinction, the Permian-Triassic extinction, that kind of wipes a lot of the crocodilians out, and those early dinosaurs were able to survive. And then we come to the Jurassic period, where we see theropod tracks here during the late Jurassic. These come from the late Jurassic. This is likely, this big boy, both of these are likely Allosaurus here, 75, well, theropod track with claw marks, 75 million year old Cretaceous period. These might not be Allosaurus then. These might be very early primitive tyrannosaurs of some kind, early late allosaurs that might have appeared. Cephalopods do still exist there, as you can see there. We get to the big theropod tracks 80 to 90 million years ago in the Cretaceous. We see this big Parasaurolophus femur, the one with the really weird crest on the back of its head that we know sounds like it's trumpeting as it blows air through its crest there. We see giant turtles here. We get giant duck-billed tracks. I guess we're not doing Mesozoic in order, but sure, why not? We see these very weird Phylodosaurus tracks here from the Triassic period. So that's likely, that's very, probably a crocodilian of some kind. So yeah, this is a crocodilian. It looks very scattered. You see those claw marks, those raised. So this would actually be the underside of the foot, where it kind of is pressed into the mud, and then you'd flip it over and you'd see the imprint. Same with these. In theory, you would have a section where it divots down, and that would also be. We have this giant ammonite, 90 to 88 million years, some more dinosaur tracks, petrified wood. This is from the Triassic period. Trees become a thing. Surprise, surprise, we have them today. This giant wall of beautiful Mesozoic fossils here, from iron nodules from the Triassic, ammonites from the Triassic period as well. They have a lot of Triassic here. I'm curious if there's a Triassic basin nearby then. We have cephalopods from the Triassic, of course. We get snails, conglomerate from the Paleocene at the Current Creek Formation. More cephalopod there, a lot of cephalopod. We have some beautiful sandstone right here and some silicified wood at this corner here. Some fish vertebrae and things like that. So some very, very broad kind of smaller than dinosaur ecosystem builders from the Mesozoic area. So as we keep walking from the Mesozoic, we get to the Cenozoic era, which is the more modern era, the rise of mammals. You get dinosaurs go extinct. If we look out this door here, we have this beautiful, it's most likely supposed to be a woolly mammoth, not a Columbian mammoth because of all the shaggy fur, but this is a very beautiful woolly mammoth right outside there. But we get glycinite here. This is a very weird, just, it almost looks obsidian-like. It basically probably is obsidian, very glassy. We get gigantic gomothere here, was a four-tusked relative of the mastodon, and a more distant relative of modern, not mammoths, but modern elephants here. We get raindrop imprints. That's a very interesting thing from that time. So we know that it rained, which is, you know, kind of silly to think that you would need to know that. But now we have actual proof that it rained, so it's no longer just a theory. We get alluvium there. We get clams, we get those. Here we have a oil shale. So this is a thick slice of oil shale that would be under the ground and be compressed by like sandstones, conglomerates, things like that, and eventually over time create oil. Here we have a Columbian mammoth lower jaw. Like I just mentioned, we have the Columbian mammoth here. Up there we have that giant Smilodon skull with those giant extended canines that would have been for piercing quick deaths. Columbian mammoth upper molars and tusks there. You see those very weird rounded grooves. That is because they're grazers. We have this camel tibia here. We have some bird tracks that would have been in mud, probably near a river or a lake or something like that, that hardened and fossilized. So we get those bird tracks. We get mud cracks, which you get from a quickly drying out muddy basin. So you have a lot of mud and the water leaves, dries out, and then it kind of cracks. Down here we have some freshwater clams like we have today, 47 million year old freshwater clams. We have a lot of freshwater clams. A lot of geological stuff here. We get fish still. We have a lot of fish. Cave deposits are a thing. Start to see more of those. Brontothera metatarsal right there. We have some conglomerate, things like that. We turn around here. We see alligators and crocodiles. Those they didn't appear, but they are a thing. And definitely post-dinosaurs, they rose again. You get a lot of very, very large crocodilians of the time that have gone extinct and died off. Same with like terror birds and things like that. So, but we still do have bird relatives and crocodilian relatives today. And over here is this beautiful, my guess is a three-toed horse. Yep, modern horse, the Protoorohippus. We love naming things Latin. Probably close to the Green River Formation, already called it, from Lincoln County, Wyoming. So you get a lot of those fish there, like from the Green River Formation. You have this beautiful preservation of this dark fossil that this thing probably died at the bottom of the riverbed, probably sinking, drowning, being quickly deposited with a layer of not then, but now limestone, mud, sands, things like that, packing it down so that it fossilizes very beautifully with these fish nearby. But let's keep walking. We get a lot of general Cenozoic information here. Now we come to what appears to be a larger Cenozoic haul of some kind. The first thing I want to point out is this monitor lizard over here. We do still have big lizards at this time. There's weird thick-bodied, more modern, closely related to like a Komodo dragon or monitor lizards. Those are existing, they rise up. You get Megalania in Australia, which is like I think it's like 5 times larger than the modern Komodo dragon. We get these weird little like dog, deer, horse things, camel relatives that are just, they look like, if you were to just say draw a generic mammal, that's what you get. You get a lot of the generic mammal look. We get some of these very, very big, just like, they're technically horse relatives because you would find the bumps in their, on their actual skull instead of it being keratin like a rhino. But you get these weird like, just giant rhino horse things with these giant tusks and things like that. Evolution got really weird during this time with a lot of the mammals. Here we get this weird beaver lion thing with those big old buck teeth that would have just been running rampant. The post-dinosaur with mammals are really weird because you see all of the mammals you have today, but larger, and then like other just like really, really weird ones. These like beaver things with these giant claws, a thin tail, those giant weird buck teeth things. They get very weird. And as we keep walking through here, actually, find what lived in the Eocene, we can actually figure out what this is. This is a wombat, apparently. This is like a wombat here. We have deer-like, yes, so they're deer, horse kind of like. You have knob-headed unitar there with that one. That's what those are. There's some turtles and things, flightless birds and things like that in here. There's some very, very weird creatures in this time. And then we come into the actual fossil hall for the Cenozoic here. Right here, we have a Unitothere leg right here, still in the stone. If we turn around, they have a massive wall of all kinds of beautiful plant fossils. You see a lot of modern tree similar, so you get a lot of like those modern looking leaves. The Cenozoic is a very weird time because it seems familiar but so different at the exact same time. So you see like oak trees and birch trees and things like that appear. And if we come over here, we see the same saber-toothed herbivores that we saw similar to this. Again, if you look at they have those 6 weird knobs on their head. This is a Unitothere. That's how you pronounce it, because we finally got a pronunciation. But these are the largest land mammals during the late Eocene. Nothing alive today looks quite like them. These plant eaters had a set of intimidating saber-like tusks, similar to hippos today, if you want to make that comparison. Here we have a Dolichorinus, which belong to a group of extinct animals collectively known as the Brontotheres. The name Brontotheres meaning thunder beasts. So you have another one of these weird, giant, beastly creatures here. If we come over here, we have another Brontothere. You can tell they're very herbivorous. You can see they're very rounded, grinding teeth is usually a good indicator of that herbivore stature. That probably most likely means there's some kind of grazer, because grasses and things like that do exist in the Eocene by this point. If we turn around here, we get a lot of very, very closely related modern creatures. Just going down it, we have Brontotheres, Protitanotheres. You have Brontothere skulls and jaws. You get those very closely related things. It's kind of one weird mammal, chunky mammal branch that breaks up. You get the toothy Stylodon there, which is actually the weird beaver wombat thing that we saw in there. We get a lot of Brontotheres here. We get a lot of Brontotheres. You have a tapir right there. Those are little things, the little not trumpet. What am I trying to say here? The little thing that elephants have. The trunk. They have like little trunks. So they have that they have like a weird part on their nose that would have opened up and then the trunk would have gone down. Well, yeah, we have a lot of brontotheres with those giant, weird knob heads. That one was probably not a grazer because of the way those teeth are kind of a little more jagged for breaking up harder materials like maybe berries and barks and things like that. If we turn around here, we get crocodiles, turtles, tons of turtles. We find a lot of fossilized turtles. Gar scales right there, those are common. You see a lot of these modern analogs here with turtles and gators and things like that. A lot of this, a lot of the modern animals you see have a similar counterpart, plus there's more. If we come here, we see fish, lots of fish. We have some reptile claws here, probably from a crocodilus of some kind. You have bird tracks, and you get the actual birds. They fossilize very well whenever they land on like the bottom of a lake bed, an anoxic lake bed here. We get insects. Those become very abundant at this time because they have less time to decompose and the fossils to break down. Here we have a beautiful example of splitting one of those giant slabs there for digging for those leaves and things like that. If we come to this side, we have a lot more of those beautiful, beautiful plants here. Again, you see a lot of those very modern analogs to modern leaves. You could probably find, like this is saying, just very similar looking leaves in the modern day. Here's this very beautiful turtle shell right here, still in some of the stone. A little broken up there, but just a beautiful hunk of stone. Right here we have some of those, a lot more freshwater clams, because clams do live in large groups like that, so you do get a lot of freshwater clams together. And we kind of skipped over this part. We'll come back to this real quickly. Unithere legs here. Right here we have the little deer relative that would have had it. They look so much different, but they're related to deer. They actually have like fingers and digits instead of hooves. They don't have hooves yet, but they will. They'll get those. That helps with running, I would presume, and speed. Here we have what appears to be the lower jaw of something. You can see some of those teeth in there right now. So that's just a very beautiful. This animal appears to be some kind of general thing, like a mastodon generalist with plants, berries, barks, ferns, maybe some grasses here and there. We have some beautiful vertebrae right here. I'm assuming these are, unithere skeletons, some vertebrae here. You have the giant round plate where they would have sat together. You have the neural arch here, neural arc there. You have the wings that kind of come out there. So that's a beautiful, beautiful vertebra display right here. But let's keep moving on through these exhibits and see what we find. So 100 million years passed in the backwards. We're going back from mammals. So here we come into the time of the dinosaurs with their beautiful Jurassic Hall. And the first thing you see right off the bat is this giant Stegosaurus cast right here. Look at this massive behemoth. This thing was absolutely huge. We'll talk on the Ceratosaurus and Allosaurus in the back there. Those things are beautiful looking. You have this beautiful, massive plates, the huge stagomizers for defense. If we come right here, we can actually see some of these plates here. We have this beautiful Stegosaurus femur. Try not to drop this light. This long Stegosaurus femur. We have the plate right there and part of their spines, or part of the spine of some kind. One thing that's unique about Stegosaurus that you can tell if it's vertebra as is you have this heart-shaped top of the neural arch there, neural arch there. You have that weird heart shape with the two massive bulbs. That's usually a dead giveaway it is Stegosaurus. And they have this ambiguous Stegosaurus in a jacket. You have some of the ribs there. I think this is some of the head or neck maybe. This might actually be some of the tail of some kind. Here might be the shoulder then. That looks like a shoulder or a scapula of some kind. If we come back here, we have some Can you see the large space in this Stegosaurus pelvis right here? It was thought to actually have a second brain in its hips. It doesn't. It's an air pocket to actually help swing its massive tail. From what we know, we have this Stegosaurus limb right here, but that is it's funny that they still have on display that it might have had that second butt brain. I do love that. Here we have some very, very beautiful dinosaur tracks, maybe. You can see them. Here's one. Here's appears to be one. That might be one. This is from EU Brontis. Yeah, so you have a track down here. This massive track right here is one. You have one kind of here in this general area. You have one up here. You have one here. And then there's kind of partial one here. They're very hard to see. I'm like standing right next to it, and it's very hard to make out, so y'all probably won't likely be able to sadly make it out on camera. But this is just a beautiful display. I'll take a picture of that so y'all can kind of see what y'all are looking at. Here we have some more dinosaur tracks from Carmelo Pottis here. Very deep. We have a lot of dinosaur tracks. You get a lot of those near riverbeds and things like that that preserve well, that would seep in there and kind of fossilize that. You have some theropod track there. Here we have some pterosaur tracks. You have the foot and then the hand. You have the hand and the foot right close to it because they kind of do that like knuckle walk thing. A lot of dinosaur tracks, but y'all want to see some real fossils if we're being real. Here we have a beautiful, Stegosaurus leg right here. This is a massive leg right here. I think these might be real fossils. That's possibly why they're behind glass. Belemnites, which are cephalopods of the time. Pliosaur cervical vertebra, those massive pre-mosasaur, they look like mosasaurs, but not actually mosasaurs. We have an ichthyosaurus vertebra. They took on that niche like dolphins, those giant eyes for possibly deep water, dark fish travel. We have this very small crocodile, with some more freshwater clams and gastropods. But let's keep walking through here and see what we find. See what else we can talk about. Gymnosperms become a thing in the Jurassic. Fruiting bodies are there. Amid plants, amid fish and petrified wood, and freshwater clams again. This museum loves their freshwater clams. Here we have a hip and tail bone, or tail vertebra. So there's the tail, there's the hip of a Camptosaurus, which is kind of a smaller, not theropod, but ornithischian dinosaur or ornithopod kind of creature from the Jurassic period. Actually, because they have this very distinct look to them. They would have been those very, very little easy snack kind of dinosaurs for larger predatory dinosaurs, like our big boys over here. This is actually a very small Allosaurus and a very average sized Ceratosaurus. But first, we have Haplocanthus finds here. So we have part of the neck vertebra there. Some of the, as it goes lower down, you have some of the ribs, or some of the ribs here. You have the very large, huge chunk there that might be where the shoulders would have been. We have the scapula right there. We have arm bones, ulna, radius, tibia. You get the feet there, those huge feet. Some backbones. It looks like some back digits here. The back ones there. This long tail that leads us to our Ceratosaurus and Allosaurus. These are your predators, deadly Morrison predators. Get close to here. We have the trio of theropods here with Ceratosaurus with their weirdly elongated teeth for their size, being kind of what was thought to be and suggested by Dr. Brian Curtis, the specialized swift killers of their time because they would have been bullied by the other two larger predators. So they had those very large teeth to kind of lunge out, quickly bite something, kill it, drag it away, or just feast on it very quickly. Then we get the very general axe jaw, just not badger, but honey badger kind of thing of the time. The Allosaurus here, this is they just call it an Allosaurus here. So they're very generalist. They have those giant claws. They're generalist whenever it comes to carnivory, not in general. But these things were the most successful theropod of their time. That thick jaw and that very distinct crest leads me to think this one is most likely fragilis. Very long tail there. Very beautiful specimen they have here. But these things would have been the just kind of one of the top predators here. Then we get to Torvosaurus. They don't have anything major other than a tooth of it appears, sadly. But that would have been your bruiser, your heavy class. It would have been the T-Rex of its time, the general theropod. These massive, robust, huge, chunky claws that just bite on and clamp onto things. But switching back to Ceratosaurus here, they have this one of the things that are very weird about them, you can actually see they have those osteoderms going down their spine. I love that they included that. But they have like a weirdly robust tail that's similar to a crocodilian of some type. And so that is one of the very few reasons, but they also have like the way they're postured in the environment they're found in. It was actually thought for a while that they might be semi-aquatic, or definitely comfortable in a lake, river, swampy environment. This is a very beautiful representation of one. You have those, where it gets its name with the triple crown there. You get those facial horns there. Yeah, so you have the main one on their nose, then you have the two right above their eyes, the two ridges right above their eyes. But I would love to hop this class and get right next to this thing. This thing is amazing. This is the first Ceratosaurus full specimen we've seen. And this is actually the first Ceratosaurus we've seen since Glen Rock. But this is a very beautiful recreation of it with, this is a recreation of one, but we only have 4 specimens, one being a juvenile, and that one was sold into a private collection, sadly. But this is a beautiful recreation of Ceratosaurus here. If we turn around here, we get a big, huge log of petrified wood. Just this giant strip of petrified wood. Tree falls over, groundwater seeps in, replaces it with minerals like silica, quartz, things like that, and then you get petrified wood. But then if we come over here, we get one of those very small critters, Dryosaurus. This is one of those very small critters of the Jurassic to show that not everything is a giant Goliath with Allosaurus, Torvosaurus, Ceratosaurus, Stegosaurids, sauropods, Macronaria and Diplodocids there. But this is one of those very small guys. The plant-eating Dryosaur lived at the same time and same place as Allosaurus and Stegosaurus. It walked upright on its hind legs, similar to a theropod there. Excuse me. Like we humans do, its leg bones indicate that it was a fast runner. So you have this bottom part is a lot longer than the top part, so it was built for speed, probably because it lived out in the open in groups. Same with the Allosaurus there. The tibia is longer than the femur there, I think is what it is. Yeah, you have the tibia is longer than the femur, so it's built for speed. These little things probably could have burrowed. I don't know. I don't know if their hands are built for that, but they might have run into like root systems and things like that to try and get away from allosaurs and things like that, chasing them. But this is a very beautiful little display and one of the very forgotten creatures of the Morrison Formation. So I'm really happy that it's included here. So here we have the other section. If you turn there, you can still see the Stegosaurus and Ceratosaurus. So we literally just rounded a corner. Right off the bat, you see a lot of the sauropod backbones and things like that. Right here we have Camarasaurus, Apatosaurus, Camarasaurus, Apatosaurus, Diplodocus are the 3 big hitters that appear a lot in the Morrison. You get the rare Brachiosaurus, Barosaurus, those appear, but they're a lot more rare and less abundant. But here you have some vertebrae of them. That appears to possibly be one of the lower back there. There's these beautiful vertebrae right here. Look how huge this thing is. I have a whale vertebra, and it's about the same size as that. So to put in perspective, these things are about the same size as whales, but on land. Here, they have a nice little dig site for kids here, but we have this sauropod scapula with Diplodocus scapula right here. This would have been like the shoulder of the Diplodocus. Here we have that Drysaur skull with ornithopod, that ornithopod of the time. The light, small snack for those larger predators. We have the sauropod ankle bone. So that being said, it's the ankle of a sauropod. Here we have the sauropod front foot with that giant toe claw, because they have those. Just these massive feet that would have just, not exactly like elephants, but similar to elephants, they would just kind of press down. They don't really have an ankle, so it would kind of expand. Come around the other side here. We get the Allosaurus hand here, is what it appears to be, some kind of Allosaurus hand. Not really labeled. We have a giant Diplodocus rib right here. We have a Stegosaurus skull. This is a beautiful Stegosaurus skull here. You have that Stegosaurus skull right there. It would have been elongated, weirdly elongated. For what reason, there's a lot that goes into that. Here we have another Drysaurus. You see they got a little larger than what you had over there. They got fairly big, even though they were tiny. But yeah, this is, well, actually we'll come right through here, around here. On this other side, you can see how they'd excavate things. They'd pull them out of the ground, wrap them in plaster, lift them up with cranes and things like that. We have this huge sauropod femur broken up there. We have a trackway there, things like that. We have another fossil leg right there for a sauropod there. This is massive fossil leg right there. But yeah, this is a kind of a beautiful display of how they would have excavated things. So here we have some, appears to be fossils just on display here. We have a trilobite there, dragonfly there, giant tree here, giant water bug. Look at that weird looking, freaky looking water bug. Get close to that, see if you can get an overview of that. That big old water bug right there, all nice and fossilized there. If we come around here, we have mammoth tusks sticking up out of the ground. You can see they're very curved and arched. They have a piece of rebar drilled through them to hold them together. These are very beautiful mammoth tusks that come up. They would have used for defense, fighting each other, possibly digging up like roots or grasses and things like that. During the winters, possibly shoveling away some snow if it's a woolly mammoth of some kind to get to some grasses on the bottom. But these are some very beautiful mammoth tusks. So here we have some beautiful tree and dinosaur fossils from Dinosaur National Monument's parking lot, actually. So in their parking lot, they found some fossils. I love these places because you can dig in your own parking lot and you'll find stuff. Some very beautiful sauropod ribs, possibly a foot bone or a metatarsal there, some diplodocoid tail vertebra, limb bone crossing right there. If we turn around here, we have a stalagmite. Then over here, we have a right femur of a Diplodocus and a sauropod or a Brachiosaurus dorsal vertebra cast. This is actually one of the first Brachiosaurus specimens we've seen on this entire trip. So we have sauropod back right here, or not sauropod, Stegosaurus, sorry, my bad, from the Carnegie Quarry, and a sauropod periscope right here. Camarasaurus had a long neck, about 12 vertebrae, though not as long as Brachiosaurus. The neck of a Camarasaurus would have been able to raise the head about 20 feet above the ground, good for a commanding view of the animal's environment. So this is part of that neck vertebra right there. There's a very beautiful neck vertebra, and I think that's a good section for, oh, wait, hang on. I didn't even see this over here. This appears to be the real scapula of a stegosaur, kind of broken up there. You can see how fossils kind of come out. They don't come out in whole big chunks. They'll be broken up and you have to like glue them and paste them back together. But this is a very beautiful scapula of what appears to be a stegosaurus right here. So now we're going to check out their dinosaur garden and see how many of these creatures they have on display aren't dinosaurs, but just to check them out too. They have this cool little mineral sifting thing right here. Oh, first things first, we see right off the bat, Edaphosaur. Lizard looked like an early reptile, Permian period. Not a dinosaur, early reptile, actually closer related to us and mammals than it is to the dinosaurs, similar to Dimetrodon, with that giant sail on its back, one of those giant sails, probably for heat regulation. A lot of very high temperatures during that time, a lot more desertous. Beautiful display there. We come around here. The first thing we have that appears to be a dinosaur, Coelophysis from the Triassic period, is a carnivore meat-eating dinosaur, one of the earliest known from the United States in the Triassic Chinle Formation at Ghost Ranch, New Mexico. Hundreds of complete specimens were found in the siltstone stream bed. This 8-foot 4-inch dinosaur is patterned after a skeleton from the site. This is a very, very beautiful Coelophysis. It's a very good demonstration of that weird, long snake-like neck, that weird elongated snake-like face too. That long, long tail in the hips, the legs below their hips. Beautiful representation of one of those first early dinosaurs. Coming up here, we see another dinosaur right off the bat. It's their Allosaurus right off the bat. I can already tell it's an Allosaurus because it's not an Allosaurus. It's actually a Utah raptor, even though that's not what Utah raptor looks like. They do not have crests like that. They also would have been feathered. Their arms are weirdly long. Look at that. But they do have that giant toe claw. This is a very, very weird hybrid they actually have here with a Allosaurus head on a Utah raptor's body that got its arms extended. But yes, early Cretaceous period, Cedar Mountain Formation. A sculpture was made by David Thomas. Very large claws too. Very, very weird looking creature they have here. You replace the toe claw and call it an Allosaurus. But here, not a dinosaur. We have the mammoth that we saw from inside, the woolly mammoth. Pictures of mammoth have been found on the walls of caves occupying by Stone Age men in Europe. Mammoths roamed through the northern hemisphere and attained heights of 14 feet at the shoulder from the Quaternary period. Giant, hairy, furry, giant tusks, looks like an elephant, big trunk, big bulb on its head. Those ears to keep, to hear well, but also to keep mosquitoes and things off them. Weird giant bulbous creature there. Coming over here, we have Ornithomimus from the Cretaceous period. A very weird ostrich-like dinosaur, long neck like an ostrich, long tail, postured a lot like an ostrich, long legs for speed and running. This hollow-boned creature is often called the ostrich dinosaur due to its resemblance to the modern bird. It is about 14 feet long and 7 to 8 feet tall, with a flat mouth and hard beak, ideal for its diet of reptiles, insects, plants, and eggs. This thing would have been an omnivore from the Cretaceous period. We come over here to the Stegosaur. They have those weird front legs that kind of went out a little bit. This 25-foot long North American dinosaur weighed 4 to 6 tons, but had about 2.5 ounce brain. Very small brain for this massive creature. The same as a kitten's. It's not proper grammar, but whatever. Scientists still debate the purpose of the 2 rows of alternating triangular plates from the Triassic period. They are likely for display, absorbing heat, and releasing heat from the sun, possibly. They could actually had blood vessels that have went into the plates that would have rushed up. They could have forced blood into the plates to scare off predators, deter potential mates, not mates, but rivals during mating, but also to help with heat regulation by having that the blood in their back be able to be heat up, because they are bird reptilian-like creatures. The giant Thagomizer here. I think that is all they have. right off the bat, we have Triceratops and T-Rex, the Cretaceous duo, the rivalry of all ages. Triceratops, the largest of the horned dinosaurs, was about 30 feet long, weighed about 7 to 8 tons. It had 2 long horns over its eyes and a short one on its snout. It was one of the last dinosaurs to ever meet extinction from the Cretaceous period. This beautiful Triceratops, old school looking Triceratops. Then we come on to Tyrannosaurus Rex, the king of the dinosaurs, the largest and among the most highly evolved of all meat-eating carnivorous dinosaurs. This was also the most powerful carnivore ever to walk this planet. It stood about 18 to 20 feet tall, was up to 50 feet long, and had knife-like teeth over 6 inches. These things were massive behemoths. And if we come over here, we do see some more dinosaurs over here. But we also see some non-dinosaurs, which I do find very pleasant that we're showing them some representation. Here we have a sauropod. My guess is an Apatosaurus because it seems to be the easiest one to display. You could has that snout above its head. Oh no, Diplodocus. I was close. Apatosaurus is a diplodocid. Weighing about 10 to 12 tons and approaching a length of 90 feet. This is one of the largest dinosaurs coming from the sauropod family. More specifically diplodocids, but just this massive behemoth, long neck, giant pillar-like legs. I think there's a wasp nest on its hip there, right in that crack there, so we're not going to get any closer because I don't feel like being stung and ruining this entire trip. Over here, we have some very, very weird-looking critters that are not dinosaurs. These things are probably pre-dinosaur, if I have to guess. Yep, muschops. This squatted reptile, a strict vegetarian, was closely related to mammals from the Permian period. If you've played Ark Survival, you see these things everywhere. They are a passive tame, which is very funny. But they have these very, this one has this very weird smile right here. Yeah, but they are pre-dinosaurs, would have probably been diapsids. No, synapsids. One of those. The one without the extra hole in their skull. I'm blanking on that right now. Again, pre-dinosaur Permian, so you get a lot of those large, weird reptiles. Here we have pterosaur. This was one of the largest flying reptiles with a wingspan of 23 to 30 feet. Recent finds indicate that this type of reptile was fur-covered and may have been warm-blooded. Its name literally means winged toothless. From the Cretaceous period, they have a beak, long beak similar to a stork of some kind, probably possibly for piercing and grabbing fish. They have that large crest on the back of their head, good indicator of sexual dimorphism. Huge wingspan, hollow bones, very tiny body, its bones are the largest part of it, so it can actually get off the ground. If we come over here, this has to be an Allosaurus. If this isn't an Allosaurus, I will be very disappointed. It is an Allosaurus. This is their Allosaurus. It doesn't have the toe claw. It's larger. It has the crest. Very bony, rigid crest, I might add, too. Very long, slender bottom jaw. This is the largest carnivorous dinosaur. This large carnivorous dinosaur was the dominant predator from the late Jurassic. Its fossils are found abundantly in the Moorstone Formation of central Utah at the Cleveland Lloyd Quarry. The jawbones of Allosaurus fragilis are designed to allow the outward expansions from swallowing large chunks of meat. Allosaurus is the state fossil of Utah from the late Jurassic period. These things are just absolute monsters from their time. Their jaws could have opened actually surprisingly wide. They would have most likely used that top jaw to shear or chop like an axe. So these things are very, very, very feral. Then we come over here to our last little display. My guess is Protoceratops, and I would be right. This animal was first discovered in the Gobi Desert in Mongolia, and its fossilized eggs were the first ever to be identified as those laid by a dinosaur. At maturity, it is about 6 feet long from the Cretaceous period. Some of the earliest ceratopsians from the Gobi Desert The most famous specimen is the dueling dinosaurs found with the Velociraptor that was on display. It's a very interesting display because it actually makes them look more crocodilian-like than dinosaur-like. Their hips actually probably would have been higher up, not lower down. And their legs would have been under their hips. Their front legs would have probably been sprawled, but their back legs would be under their hips, not off to the side like that. But the head is a very beautiful design, and I like it. I like the beak and the head. So I think that's a good chunk for the dinosaur garden.